I can categorically guarantee that the vast majority of you have dogs that either A, pull on the lead, B, jumps up like a kangaroo, or C, generally just chooses to listen when they want to listen. Dogs are such intelligent beings that you could have spent several years with your dog reinforcing every single day all of the wrong things that you want to be reinforcing. And the reality is, it all comes down to you. Look, if you think that sounds harsh, that's totally fair enough, but I'm not here to pop at you directly. If anything, by being here, by educating yourself further, you are being the best you can possibly be for your dog, understanding perhaps where these mistakes are being made, remedying them, building that communication platform so that your dog can actually understand what you mean. Now, the scary thing is, most people are actually reinforcing the behavior that they don't want to see without realizing. And that's not just you, that's millions of dog owners worldwide. And we are here to help. You know how simple it really is to get it right? Probably not, because if you did, you'd never ever make those same mistakes again. So you're sat there and you're thinking to yourself, tell me, how am I messing this up? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing everything right. But what if I told you that every time you go for a walk, you're reinforcing the behavior that your dog is delivering to you that you really don't want to see? What if I told you every single time you let the tiniest little thing slide, every single time your dog jumps up at you perhaps and you push them off or you pay them some form of attention, every single time your dog demand barks and you tell them off? A lot of the time people are being punitive with their dogs, shouting at them, telling them off, when really the dogs don't actually understand what they should be doing in the first place. The way I see it is, when you agree to take on a dog and bring an additional life into yours, that is quite some commitment, and a commitment that we should really take seriously. Does that mean you need to be up at 5 a.m. working 3 hours with your dog before work and come home from work and go for another 2 hours training, walking, exercising? Well, no, of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that. What it does mean is, let's at least allow our dogs to understand what behavior is going to make them successful, what behavior is going to give them the freedom to live their very, very best lives. Because when we get our dogs at the start, that's the vision that we build, the vision that we create in our mind, is us being in locations like this, going for these lovely walks, sitting in cafes, relaxing, chilling, enjoying those cuddles, enjoying that love. And if all your dog has become is a drain on your financial resources, a drain on your mental health, and just a general drain, that is absolutely not what you're looking for. Let's imagine you get fed up with your dog demand barking at you when they want something. But every now and again, you just chuck them a bit of food to be quiet. They're barking next to you and you're chatting to someone, so you just pet them and give them attention. You're paying and thus reinforcing said behavior. But they have an accident in the house and then 5 minutes later you berate them because you found the pee that you missed out on simply because you weren't paying attention in the first place. These are a couple of fantastic examples of how we can really miscommunicate with dogs and almost set them up to fail. If we're paying our dogs in some sense for barking by delivering food or by delivering physical attention, and sometimes, by the way, even by telling your dog off or by shouting at them, some dogs would rather have negative attention than none at all. Surely we can understand how dogs can start to get a little bit confused. And all that dogs do in the end is they become creatures of habit. So they start to look and they think, okay, once a week we do a little bit of work, and when I do this I get a treat, and that's really positive, and I understand how that works. But for the vast majority of the week I'm exhibiting certain behaviors, I'm making choices myself. Sometimes they don't work, but most of the time they do. My owner's not really giving me much clarity, so I'm just going to err towards what I think is the best thing to do. And then we're there as dog owners berating our dogs and getting frustrated when they don't have a damn clue what is going on. Every single time you can't be bothered to pull your dog up to communicate with your dog that what they've done is incorrect, or in fact you don't have a communication platform in place. The consistency is so all over the place. 1 minute they get a physical correction, 1 minute they get put in their crate, the next minute is go to your bed. There is so much confusion there, and that is one of the most frustrating things to see from the outside, and to hear people say to me, no matter what I do, my dog just doesn't listen. And then I'm literally sat watching people exhibit this exact same thing. And if you're watching this and you're feeling guilty, that is fine. At least you now know, and at least you can start to understand. Consistency and clarity of that communication is so important. I cannot reinforce that enough. So, okay, Lewis, all right, come on, carry on, get to the point. I'm feeling guilty. I feel like a terrible dog owner. Listen, that's not what I've meant. At least I've got your attention. How do we fix this? How do we resolve this? It is super simple. And the first part is understanding that dogs are actually creatures of habit. We seem to think that dogs learn from repetition and repetition and repetition, and that's great. And dog can certainly learn the obedience from repetition. But repetition generally generally has to go alongside the consistency. And if we're repeating something 10 times a day and the dog's getting it right 10 times a day, then dogs become creatures of habit when they're making 10 out of 10 correct decisions. If you're repeating something 100 times a day and 10 of those times are whilst you're in a physical training session, but the other 90 times are you generally not paying attention around the house and your dog doing all of these different things, and you're not communicating correctly with your dog on walks and them pulling and them jumping up and them lunging and whatever else they might be doing, well, actually, you're teaching them that 90 times you can do what you want, and there's not really going to be anything going on there in terms of proper communication, and only 10 times when we're in the house, when we're in an environment where there are no challenges, where there's nothing going on, you get it right because you do it this way. So what way do we think our dog is going to sway towards? Well, they're going to sway towards what is most habitual to them. What gives them that feeling of, okay, well, I feel that that is clearer to me because the consistency isn't there. So they're just going to go towards something that seems so much more obvious to them. To us, it might be very simple. Well, I've asked you to do something. I've paid you with the treat in the obedience session. You've done it. Why aren't you doing it? Well, if we ask our dog to do the same thing in a more challenging environment and they don't do it, and we do nothing about that, and we've not proofed them properly, and we're not communicating with them properly, our dog looks at us and they think, you don't have a clue what you're doing. So I'm not going to listen to you in the first place. I'm just going to advocate for myself. We talk about people advocating for their dogs in many, many ways, but this is another example of how dogs start to think, well, do you know what? I'm just going to do my own sweet thing because when I do, it feels much more clear to me, as opposed to being with you, my owner, who's telling me a million different things, giving me mixed messages. There's nothing worse than receiving those mixed messages from people. Now, here's something that most dogs do that a lot of people reinforce without even realizing too, and that is begging for food at the table. Let's say the 7 days in a week and we have 7 dinners in a week and we're sat at the table collectively, and every single day your dog comes up to you and 3 days in a row they get nothing and you just ignore them, and then one day just chucks them a little bit of food because they've been a good boy today. They've had 3 days of ignorance and then they've had one day where they've been reinforced, and the moment you reinforce something, you're paying through your own communication, this is good, do this again. I'm going to reward you for that. So the next day the dog comes back to the table and they sit and look at you, and you get frustrated because you think, well, you seem a bit more beggy than yesterday. I've never given you treats at the table. Yeah, I gave you one yesterday, but that's because you were a good boy. And today you've not been a good boy, so I'm not going to give you anything. And then the next day they wait again. And then on day 7, they've had a great day again. So you give them a little bit. You think, oh, you know, you can have a little bit of beef off the plate because I'm not going to eat it anyway. You've been good today. Fantastic. That's what we want. Good boy. And you've reinforced the same thing again. You might look and think, well, there's 7 days in a week, and on 2 of those days, I've paid my dog, but the rest of the times I did things right. Well, that's a general lack of consistency, and the high value behind what you're giving the dog outweighs significantly the 5 days that you've given them nothing. So you're paying your dog for a behavior that you don't want to see. So remember, your dog's not just repeating a behavior because they are specifically stubborn and they really want to agitate you. They're repeating behavior because it works. You might only be reinforcing it 1 out of 10 times, but if you're reinforcing it, and be very wary of the ways that you can reinforce things, by the way, it is super obvious. And the moment you can take a step back and have a little look at potentially the areas that you're making these mistakes, eradicate them, set a correct communication platform in place, you're going to start to get a dog that really, for the first time ever, understands this is what my owner wants. And then at that moment, that's when you reward. If you've got a dog that pulls on the lead, and this is a perfect example for everyone because most people's dogs pull on the lead, let's be honest. Your dog wants to get from A to B as quickly as possible, or they want to be off the leash, or if they're not environmentally stable, perhaps they just want to issue some sort of an avoidance, get out of that situation as quickly as possible. Now, the moment you pull backwards on that leash, you're actually starting to engage something that is genetically and biologically within your dog, and actually us as humans, which is called opposition reflex. If someone comes up behind me right now and puts a bit of gentle pressure on me, pulling me backwards, I'm not just going to fall back into their loving arms and give them a cuddle. What I might do is I might push forward and resist that, because naturally I don't want to be falling backwards, I want to be in the position that I'm in. So that's just a natural biological response. I don't want to be flying backwards. Same thing with a dog. When we're building a protection drive in a protection dog, how do you do that? You pop a harness on them, you start to build a little bit of excitement, a little bit of frustration, and the handler stands behind them and they allow the dog to build that frustration, to push forwards into that harness, to then reinforce all of the behaviors that we want to see, building the frustration, which then builds the slight noises that then develop into a bark, that then develops into that real outward protective behavior that we really want to see in that environment. So every single time you're on a walk with your dog, and your dog pulls out in front, you're pulling them back. You're saying to them, I want you to pull on the lead. I think about how confusing that is for a dog. So if every single time your dog's out in front, you're pulling backwards on them, through that biological response that they naturally have, you're pulling back on them to get them into a position. What you're saying to your dog is, I'm your owner, I've got you attached to a lead, you're in an environment where you want to either play, escape, walk, or run around. And I'm saying to you, I want you back here, whilst understanding that there is a natural biological response to me pulling backwards, which is for you to pull forwards. Well, how does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. You're telling your dog through something that is innately natural to them, I'm gonna pull backwards on you, you pull forwards, please. You're paying them for a behavior that you don't want to see. And when you practice this sort of behavior as a handler and as a communicator between yourself and your dog, you're actually feeding the monster that you want to defeat. You're giving energy to something that you don't want to have legs. You really want to learn to communicate properly that this is how I want you to behave. Now, I genuinely believe that every single one of you watching this video just doesn't know and understand what should be expected from your dog and how you can implement that. Because if you did, you would never, ever take your dog out for a walk without them fully understanding what leash pressure means. When we teach a dog to walk on the lead, we're not teaching them through utilizing corrections or from utilizing anything other than just positive reinforcement at the start. And they need to understand that pressure on the leash is not something that we want and that you get rewarded when you relieve that pressure on the leash. So you'll hear me a lot talk about, does your dog really truly understand what leash pressure means and what that should mean to them? And the answer most of the time is no. Leash pressure should be the absolute opposite of what you are wanting from your dog. So using a walk as an example, from your dog's perspective, they're doing absolutely everything in the way that they should be. They're on a lead, they're walking where you want them to walk. What more can we ask for? That's what the dog sees. They're pulling. You're pulling backwards, you're engaging opposition reflex. Okay, fine, no problem. We'll push into that because that's what you're telling me to do as my handler. How can we ever expect the dog to understand that they're making a mistake? And then they look back at you and you're getting frustrated and you're shouting at them. You're yanking them, you're correcting them. Oi, come here, heel. They don't have a clue. They have no idea what you're asking them to do. You're just a lunatic at the end of the lead. Be fair to your dogs. Come on, guys, let's get something, at least something in place so that our dog understands, oh, okay, fair enough, this is what you want. And when I do it, you're rewarding me as opposed to me spending an entire walk just getting yanked around all over the place, corrected by the neck, chunked about on a harness. That's not fair. If you start today, right now, and you start changing things and you start learning to communicate with them adequately, and by the way, we're here to help you with this. You can change a dog that has a lifetime of habits way quicker than you could ever imagine. And the way that we move forward with that is not just by watching this video and understanding actually some of these simple mistakes that I'm making kind of make sense. It's assessing the whole picture of what your relationship is with your dog. Now, I'm going to need you to be very, very honest with me here. If you really want to make this work, if you really want to learn, if you really want to embrace becoming the very best dog owner and having the very best dog, listen up. We've put together the most incredible PDF that is clear as day, that tells you step by step exactly what you need to be communicating with your dog. The exact marker system that we use for every single dog that we train worldwide. Have a little look in the description below and you'll see a link to a PDF that showcases exactly how you should be communicating with your dog. That is our marker system. It is how we communicate with all of our dogs, whether that be a behavioral case, whether that be a dog that we're just helping the owners with some very basic bits, or whether it be a family protection dog, or even a trained family companion dog. It is exactly the same marker system and exactly the same method of communication. No secrets, very, very simple commands, and it is clear as you could ever imagine. Have a read through that. Let us know if you've got any questions and drop us a message to ask for the videos that go alongside that PDF. So if you really want to get this sorted, if you really passionately want to be the best dog owner that you can be, that is the most amazing thing that you can do right now. Get the communication in place, have your dog looking at you, and finally, for the first time ever, understanding what you want from them. We want our dogs to believe that they're making choices for themselves, not for us. But really, we're sat there thinking this is great. They think they're doing this for them, they're doing it for us as well. And collectively, we become successful. So that's what this is all about. So remember, utilize the link in the bio. Like and follow the page. More and more information is going to be coming out. We're here to support you guys. We support dog owners all over the world. We absolutely love it. It's a total pleasure. Your support means a lot to us, and we're so grateful for that. We need it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Take it in. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. We're never going to be that company that's saying, you've not spent a penny with us. We're not going to help you. We will help you as best as we can, always giving you the very, very best advice. Thank you for your support. Check out our other videos. We've got some fantastic videos up, and we're going to continue to be giving you more and more and more. And we're so excited to be able to do that. Big love, guys.